Good morning. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to SSUC, to Southminster Steinhauer United Church. We are spiritual seekers united in community, which means that this is a place for questions, for wondering, for learning, for visioning, for being community with each other. And as we move through the changes and transitions of life, we're exploring in these last few weeks the transitions of life, the inner workings of our human experience as we move through change, transition that happens to all of us all the time. This is a place where we seek to find wisdom for our living, to strengthen our intentions to live more closely to our highest values and our worthy goals. This is a place of building community based on honest relationships and authentic spirituality. So welcome to this place and to this gathering.
My name is Margaret, and I am today's gathering companion. SSUC is a place where we work hard to make a safer space for all. No matter who we are, we're welcome here. All sizes, all ages, all colors, all abilities, all genders, all sexualities, all religions or none or many, all people. May we find a welcome and a safe place to be ourselves and enter into whatever time, whatever space we need this morning.
As Margaret lights our community candle this morning, we'll let it remind us of the hopefulness of whole and healthy change, of finding new ways to grow together, and of honoring the healthy challenges of life's transitions and the beautiful places we might find ourselves as a result. Persevering through the changes and the transitions is the hard part. So may our attention be drawn to this flame when we need reminding of the strength of community today, when we need reminding of our connection to those of us here, to those of us online, to the community of humanity from where we get our strength. Let's gather in words, in singing, in community this morning.
Good morning. My name is Ruth Stevenson, and I'm co-chair of the Moving Forward Toward Reconciliation Committee. And we've been asked to present a little moment each Sunday in June because this is Indigenous History Month. I'd first like to share a personal view of land acknowledgements that we do weekly here at SSUC. For me, the land acknowledgement reminds me of the sacredness of our earth and how it has nourished humanity from the beginning of time. Remembering Indigenous inhabitants of this land that we occupy now reminds me of the Indigenous worldview of the land as not an object, but an integral component of the web of life. This concept is illustrated by two readings that I'd like to share with you this morning. The first is from Chief Seattle, who lived from about 1786 to 1866. He was a member and a chief of the Squamish people in the current state of Washington. The city of Seattle was named after him, I learned from Wikipedia. He was a leader. He believed very much in cooperation between peoples, and he also talked a lot about ecological responsibility. And this is what he is purported to have said. Humankind has not woven the web of life. We are but one thread within it. Whatever we do to the web, we do to ourselves. All things are bound together. All things connect. This worldview is also described by Richard Wagamese, a modern Ojibwe writer and journalist who lived from 1955 to 2017. This is something he wrote in his book, Embers, One Ojibwe's Meditations, published in 2016. I've been considering the phrase, all my relations, for some time now. It's hugely important. It is our saving grace in the end. It points to the truth that we are all related, that we are all connected, that we all belong to each other. The most important word is all. Not just those who look like me, sing like me, dance like me, speak like me, pray like me, or behave like me. All my relations. That means that every person, just as it means every rock, mineral, blade of grass, and creature. We live because everything else does. If we were to choose collectively to live that teaching, the energy of our change of consciousness would heal each of us and heal the planet.
our Time for All Ages is a time where we spend some time, often with a children's story or a topic, but it's not just for children, it's for all of us. And so today, I would like to read this story from the front. And if you would like to just stay in your seats and look at the pictures on the wall, hear this story, and we'll experience the wisdom it might have for us. Today's, I'm just going to borrow this for a minute, Margaret, because I wrote a note in here and I forgot. Today's story is called Newton's Perfect Day, but it is written by Ansley Simpson, illustrated by Rael McGregor. And I just wanted to mention that this, with thanks to some members of the Moving Forward to Reconciliation team, this book was recommended to me. It's Ansley Simpson, the author, is a Michi Sagig Anishinaabe musician, artist, and author, and a member of Alderville First Nation in what is now known as Mississauga. Newton's Perfect Day. Newton means wind. Newton wakes up at, have I got that right? Yes. Newton wakes up at their mom's house ready for the day. Today I have a plan and it will unfold perfectly, they said, just knowing it was true. There will be pancakes for breakfast. There will be dogs to pet. But the best part about Newton's Perfect Day is that the last 3 chapters of their book will be read, lying on the grass under their favorite shady tree. They yawned, they stretched, they were just about to get out of bed when whoosh, Newton's mom blew into their room in a flurry. Her top half was dressed for work, her bottom half was dressed for bed. Sloosh went a bowl of cereal into Newton's hands. Newton, get up. I've got language class and it starts in 2 minutes. Before they even knew what had happened, Newton was outside. No pancakes. I'll be done in an hour. I love you. Kabunk went the screen door. Be-doop went the computer. Anin buzu, said Newton's mom. That means hello. This was not in the plan, Newton said to Ninatig, with the almost red leaves. Newton was just about to tell Ninatig all about it and maybe ask for a hug when, whoosh, Newton's auntie blew through the back gate in a flurry. Her top half carried sleepy cousin A, her bottom half carried sleepy cousin B. Anne and Newton, miigwech for watching the kids. I've got to run, I've got a dentist appointment, and the bus comes in 2 minutes. Newton sighed. This was not in the plan. I should be eating pancakes right now, they said to their cousins who were busy braiding each other's hair. Newton has lots of cousins in the city. Some of their cousins have fur and some of their cousins have leaves. But these 2 cousins have names as long as their hair. So everyone just calls them A and B. We're going to my dad's house, decided Newton. Newton's dad's house was a good idea. It was a short bus ride away and right near the park with their favorite tree, and maybe, just maybe, there would be some pancakes there. They tumbled down to the bus stop, making sure to be safe as they crossed the street, and they did it just as the bus pulled up. Pancakes would be delicious with black caps on top, A said, picking berries from the long prickly branches that hung like arms over the back deck. This is a perfect idea, Newton started to say, when suddenly, whoosh, Newton's dad blew across the deck and into the house in a flurry. His top half wore spilled coffee. His bottom half tripped over a computer cord. Hi, kiddos, can't talk. I've got a meeting and it starts in 2 minutes, said Dad. This was not in the plan, said Newton. Zigag, P.U., said A, plugging his nose as the skunk disappeared under the deck. Zigag likes quiet, said B in a not-so-quiet voice. Zigag needs space, Bee continued even louder. Shh, whispered Newton as they tippy-toed off the deck. This was not in the plan either, Newton said, as they plopped down on the steps out in front of their dad's place. I should be reading the last 3 glorious chapters of my book under my favorite tree. Will these comic books work? Said A with a big smile as he pulled comics out of the little library box. Maybe this day can be saved after all, said Newton, and they all walked to the park. Newton's favorite tree was in the perfect spot. The top half was shady, with colorful leaves, just like Ninatig. The bottom half was surrounded by shaggy grass, and the best part was it had a view of the dog park. Newton sat under the tree, spread the comics out in front of them like a rainbow. And if you climb a tree, you have to be careful, said A as he hung down from a branch. Squirrels are very careful climbers, added B, counting each one in the branches of the tree. Just when it seemed they had found the calmest pocket of the city and Newton could finally read in peace, plunk went A from the tree branch. Eep went B, launching the comics up into the air. Zip went all the Ajadamug out of the tree, the squirrels, and whoosh, a puppy flew by in a flurry. Their top half was fluffy, their bottom half was dragging a long red leash. Somebody grab that puppy! Newton knew just what to do. When you watch as many dogs as Newton does at the dog park, you know there's nothing dogs love more than a good, big, fun dog pile. This was not in the plan, Newton giggled to the Ajadamug as they hopped back up in the tree. Newton scanned their cousins. A was inspecting a new scrape that had appeared on his knee, while B spun in circles. Their comics were scattered under the tree. Everyone was hungry. Everyone had to pee. It was clear to Newton that it was time to go home. When they got back, Newton's mom and auntie were sitting in the backyard with cups of tea. Mom still dressed top part fancy, bottom part jammies. There you are, and you have berries. Do you know what goes well with berries, said Newton's mom? Pancakes. Newton, A, and B squirmed and giggled. Even Ninatig shook in excitement, knowing their tasty syrup would be enjoyed. Newton smiled and thought, today did not go as planned, and it was wonderful. The wisdom of this story is deep and plentiful. To think of all of the world around us as our cousins, the trees, the squirrels, the dogs, the humans. But also to know that our days very rarely go as planned, and they can be wonderful. May we find wisdom for our living. An invitation that Kid Spirit is available and our leaders are ready to have a good time with you this morning. This gives us a chance to offer a few invitations and update ourselves on the life and the work of this community. So I invite anyone that has something to share this morning to come forward, and you're free to do that. Just as we do that, I'll say a big thank you to those of you, all of you who contribute to the work and life of this community. We do that in many ways, and our donations are just one of those ways. Our time, our experience, our wisdom are other ways we do that as well. And if you'd like to donate any or all of the above, you can talk to me or anyone that's here, and you can also make donations in the box at the back. You can donate to us anytime, online or by e-transfer, and we thank you for all the ways you contribute. I want to say a quick word about next Sunday. We will celebrate our first Affirm lunch after COVID. We've gotten ourselves organized in order to do that. It used to be a monthly thing. Every second Sunday of the month, we would have an Affirm brunch. Who knows if that will continue over the summer, but this is a wonderful month to do it, being Pride Month. And I invite you all to consider staying after the gathering next Sunday. We will have a bit of a potluck kind of finger food type lunch. So consider bringing a plate. It doesn't have to be humongous, a plate to serve 3 or 4 or 5 people that has anything you like on it. Muffins, finger food, fruit, veggies, dessert. And we'll just share it all, and there will be enough. So consider coming. There will also, after we kind of get ourselves settled and eat a little bit, we'll have a chance to hear from our guest speaker, Shalini Sinha, who is the current chair of the board of the Pride Center of Edmonton and gender studies professor at MacEwan University. And she'll come share some wisdom about gender, about the current issues going on in gender in Edmonton, in this area, in things we might want to know about pronouns, about all kinds of things related to gender, particularly trans issues that are current and affect us all in the news and in our city right now. So please consider coming next week. Oh, I'm sorry, Marg, you're waiting patiently. I have one more. Next, within the month of June, we have the opportunity to celebrate not just newcomers, but even if you've been here for a while or even a long time, but have never had a chance to be celebrated with how you belong, how you are connected and part of this community. This is a chance to do that. If you're new to us, then it's a chance to say, you know what, I love this place. I want to consider this an important part of my life, and I want a way to mark that in my life. If you're new, if you're old, it doesn't matter. Marking those occasions, marking the importance of the things of value in our life is such a wonderful thing to do, an important thing to do. So on the last Sunday of June, the 25th, we are going to do that. We're going to have a moment within the gathering to mark that, to help us celebrate with you all your connection to this community. So if you're interested in being part of that ritual, if you would like to kind of mark that, your connection to this community in a special way, RSVP to us, to me, to the office, and there will be an information session on Zoom on Thursday, June 15th at 7 p.m. And you'll get the Zoom link and all of that. It's in the e-messenger. The reason we're doing it on Zoom is because the 25th will be about in-person community and online community together. There are many who have joined us online over the course of many years that we've been meeting online, and who also would relish the thought to have that time to mark their connection to this community. So we'll have a bunch of boxes on the screen, we'll have us in the room, and we'll all celebrate together. So please consider joining that information session or RSVPing. Okay, Marg.
I don't know why, but I seem to have pancakes on the brain. I'm Marg Hetherington from our Outreach Committee. You'll remember that last week, Jonathan McCareth from Bissell Centre was here to help launch their annual summer Drop Your Gaunch underwear campaign. You know, underwear is the most needed item within our city centre and amongst those in need, as well as it's the least given donated item. So we have made this a special project the last few years. And Linda May, I kid her that she's our Energizer Bunny when it comes to all things Bissell. Well, our Energizer Bunny is home with a cold and getting better, but wanted you to have an update the first week. Thanks to the generosity of last Sunday, Linda purchased 90 pairs of underwear already to get the campaign going. And she's challenging us. 772 pairs were gathered last year. Could we meet this or exceed it, she says. Also, many ways to do this. Bring your items, tops or bottoms, women's, men's, children, underwear. Leave here on Sundays in June or in the office as well. Linda will do our shopping for us. This is just the best deal because she's out there scouting, and that's her last request. If you see any sales for underwear anywhere, let her know. Thanks, everybody.
Joe Nicholas from Property Maintenance. Just a reminder that we do need some help after the service. We need to put half the chairs away. There's a recital this afternoon and they can use about 60. And then again, for next Sunday, if we could have people here, you know, about 8:45, 9 o'clock to help put chairs up. Thank you.
Hi, it's me again. I forgot to mention that tomorrow night there's a Zoom meeting for the committee moving forward towards reconciliation. Due to my procrastination, the Zoom link didn't get into the weekly newsletter, but if you'd like to join us tomorrow night, please just come and see me after the service and I'll tell you how to join the meeting.
From the Gospel story as found in Matthew 12, verses 1 to 12, we read, "One Sabbath, Jesus was strolling with his disciples through a field of ripe grain. Hungry, the disciples were pulling off the heads of grain and eating them. Some religious leaders reported them to Jesus. 'Your disciples are breaking the Sabbath rules.' Jesus said, 'Really? Didn't you ever read that David and his companions did what David and his companions did when they were hungry? How they entered the sanctuary and ate fresh bread off the altar, bread that no one but priests were allowed to eat? And didn't you ever read in the law that priests carrying out their temple duties break Sabbath rules all the time, and it's not held against them?' There is far more at stake here than religion. If you had any idea what this scripture meant, I prefer a flexible heart to an inflexible ritual. You wouldn't be nitpicking like this." When Jesus left the field, he entered their meeting place. There was a man there with a crippled hand. They said to Jesus, "Is it legal to heal on the Sabbath?" They were baiting him. He replied, "Is there a person here who, finding one of your lambs fallen into a ravine, wouldn't, even though it was a Sabbath, pull it out? Surely kindness to people is as legal as kindness to animals." Then he healed the man. The religious leaders walked out furious, sputtering about how they were going to ruin Jesus. These are words passed down through the Jesus tradition. May we find wisdom for our living.
Whether we come from a long United Church background or whether we have church experience in our history or zero experience in our of the church in our upbringing, whether we know the Christian church from a strict dogmatic or liturgical tradition, or whether we find wisdom in many religious traditions, whether you're committed to the value and purpose of religious institutions or whether you're done with them. We are all on some kind of journey, in the middle of some kind of transition from where we were to where we're headed. We're all in the midst of some kind of rethink, small, medium, or big. In the middle of this transition from where we were to where we're headed, and who knows, because for each of us it's different, who knows what direction on a line graph your arrow is pointing? Who knows where on a spectrum of spirituality you'd put your push pin? But we're all growing and moving somewhere. Years ago, when we were putting together an Edmonton group of leaders who wanted to explore issues in progressive Christianity, it was then that we started really talking about this movement, the long history of questioning and exploring the cutting edges of theology in this congregation, what that all meant. Because I think this congregation has been progressive since the moment it was meeting together. I think through many of those conversations, those numbers of years ago and others, is when we really discovered and got clear that what we were exploring here within this community was about being expansive, expanding our wisdom. Not rejecting what we still hold dear, but expanding. Unless, of course, it needs ejecting, and then we're happy to eject it. Expanding our wisdom, expanding our views, expanding our understandings, our perspectives. It's an open word, expansive. It describes us well, I think. Instead of saying it's a line of progress, that I think is the temptation around the word progressive, that says you're here and you're going there. Rather than that, it's a better question in our context of life's transition to ask, where are our ideas, our views, and our values expanding? How can my views, understandings expand? The ancient wisdom that Marg shared with us this morning illustrates a way to expand that might be helpful for us whenever we are in movement and evolution to who we're becoming. Jesus and his friends traveling the countryside in and out of towns. And this one Sabbath day, a day that the Hebrew teachings are clear about keeping holy, setting aside as a day of rest, honoring it as a way of expressing gratitude and thanks by not doing the work of the other 6 days of the week. But as it happens, this story kind of points out, a little bit obviously, I'd say, regardless of the day of the week, a person gets hungry. They pluck some grains of wheat of the field, Jesus and his friends do, and they munch as they walk. As the story goes, the elite see this happening, they raise a fuss because it is technically against the law. They are reaping on the Sabbath. They are doing the work of the other days. And the discussion, the debate, and the teaching ensues. There's more at stake than religion, Jesus says. This is a good line, eh? It's better to have a flexible heart than an inflexible ritual. Meaning, if you can't budge a little when human hunger's on the line, then come on. This time the crew, as they move on, they're being watched now. They're on the watch list. This time the crew is helping a man with an illness who has an issue with his hand, during which Jesus calls the religious leaders out on their outrage, saying that they would care more about a distressed animal than they would a fellow human being. Does the rules about the day of the week take priority over basic human decency? Simple compassion. The religious leaders leave fuming, and they look for their way to get revenge. And spoiler alert, they do. Big time. These simple stories from centuries ago are condemnations of empty words. They speak directly to organized religion. They speak of empty words and beliefs, outdated or meaningless laws or dogma. It doesn't matter what you say you'll do. It doesn't matter what you write down. It doesn't matter what you believe or what group you belong to. It doesn't matter what religious box you check on your census form. It doesn't matter how faithful to a set of rules you are about what makes a person or an act or a life sacred and special or sinful and secular. This is what rules do. They have us divide into what and who is worthy and who is not. What matters? He's saying that doesn't matter. Leave it. What matters is what good you do. There are multiple examples over these kinds of harsh words in spiritual writings for those who emphasize beliefs over behavior, dogma over lived values. And the message is always, err on the side of being a human, please. Err on the side of compassion. This is a quote from Bo Porden. Dogma is often the corruption of someone else's spirituality. Someone else's spiritual experience. Belief systems are often the enemy of the very spiritual truths they supposedly uphold. They are the enemy of wisdom and understanding that would otherwise flow through us like blood that circulates through our veins. Dogmatic presuppositions drummed into our heads from infancy are like security blankets that shroud us in relative ignorance and chain us to the past. We are capable of much more, so much more. Many in our community have been harmed by the exclusion, the rigidness, the hatred that's born of that kind of dogma. Luckily, there has been courage to step out of those systems, but not for all. Many have recognized the limits of a system that tries to explain and codify and control everything. For so many of us that are recovering from that kind of history, these are painful and lasting wounds. But it's not always that dramatic. So too are the times that find us evolving at whatever pace to reject certain things that 10 years ago, 1 year ago, 6 months ago seemed harmless. And now we just cannot even bear language that gets used, beliefs we hear being taught in other segments of the Christian church. And it's always our job, no matter where we are in expanding our thinking and our feeling our way through this, to call out that which does not put humanity and compassion first. So maybe we're just trying to sort out where we expand in our ideas and our notions about this being that we sometimes call God. Maybe we've moved on from this idea of an up there, out there, external being. But perhaps we're still struggling with moving to that place of understanding that, well, what takes its place? Perhaps we're moving to where our understandings of that is changing or has changed to a sense of connectedness or inner knowing or being itself, connectedness. And maybe we'd like to be there but aren't yet. Or maybe we have other thoughts and ideas flowing through us and at conflict with each other, and that's fair and that's fine because that's the process of expanding. That's what makes transition so hard. Or maybe it's who this Jesus guy is. That it's shifting from understandings of that we were, so many of us were taught as children, or who we have heard and experienced in other realms, that this Son of God, this all-powerful man deity. And if we reject that, but then what? Maybe we are hoping that we're expanding towards something of seeing this Jesus guy as something of a wisdom teacher or a guide or a resource, a wisdom for our lives like many other wisdoms for our living. And we might be there and we might not be there yet, or we might have other ideas floating around and in conflict within us, and that's okay because it's the process of expanding. let's recognize that all of our transitions in these areas of our spirituality are difficult. They involve grief. They involve letting our hearts catch up with our heads. That even though certain ideas, thoughts, beliefs don't work for us anymore, maybe you relate to this. Even though in our heads we've rejected some of those old thoughts, old doctrines, old things that we learned, even the image of the Christian church that comes to us in our media, and particularly that gets dominated by, if we're going to just identify it, the right side, the more conservative side of the Christian church. Even if we reject those things, we wonder to ourselves, but you know what? I miss some of it. That's okay. Because grief is involved in any time we transition and change. Oh, remember when we used to sing that old hymn? Yes. Yes. Remember when it was easier because we knew what the answer was? That's part of grief. That's part of change. That's part of life's transition. And it's okay. It's okay. Even if things don't work for us anymore, a part of us can still mourn them. Because they have comfort, they have memory, they have nostalgia. Which is why it's not a progress line with some destination at the end. We're all somewhere in the process of expanding ourselves. To think, I still hold on to this, but not that. I'm letting go of this, but I want to hold this. It's all okay. It's the process of expanding ourselves. And you know what? It hurts. It's like a new yoga pose, as if I would know, or a sore muscle. Like when you pick all that crab grass that's right at the edge of your grass and your garden, and then you realize my back did not like that. It has to go, but it hurts to get rid of it. It hurts. Many of you know this writer, John Shelby Spong. He was part of some of our early expanding. Great work John Shelby Spong did, great learnings. Many of us can still learn from him, although we're moving past where John Shelby Spong was. That's okay. We're expanding. John Shelby Spong says, "The task of religion is not to turn us into proper believers, it is to deepen the personal within us, to embrace the power of life, to expand our consciousness in order that we might see things that eyes do not normally see." Yes, that is the spiritual journey. So, let's honor and celebrate the courage it takes to go on that kind of spiritual journey. We said it's okay to mourn. It's okay that it's a challenge to be in that transition of spiritual ideas and thinking. It's okay to mourn and find it difficult, but let's also celebrate the courage it takes to go on that walk. All of us. It takes courage to step out of what we've known and into something we're just trying to figure out. Great courage. The word expansive reminds me of the word open. When you're expanding, you're kind of opening the circle. Think of when you have a little circle of chairs and people, and then you realize, oh, more people are coming. You can't just squish the chairs in. You have to open the circle. You have to expand it. So, openness, I wonder if that's what happens when we live and think expansively. These are some of the questions we're asking as we go through life's transition of expanding our minds and our hearts and our spirits. These aren't all of them, obviously, but these are some of the questions we're asking. How are we open to the vitality of questioning? The vitality of questioning. Also scariness, but let's focus on the positive. How are we open to the vitality of questioning? How are we open to sacredness in every place and in each person? And to learn from our Indigenous friends, from every component of the earth, its creatures, and its life. How are we open to what I give my time and energy, how I give my heart to the values I want to commit to, and how I spend my energy as a result? How are we open to the messiness and struggle that comes with wrestling with our past ideas and understandings, and whether they still bring meaning? You get that? Messiness and struggle. It won't be neat and clean and easy. How are we open to that? How are we open to how I give my heart? Nope, I read that wrong. How am I open to new motivations that help me to work for justice or peace in whatever ways I'm able? If we're in this changing, transitioning time, our motivations might be different than what they once were. They might not be motivated by fear or by complying with the rules. They might be motivated by what values we hold most dear. And how am I open to the reality that we will all have different and varied ways of experiencing and living it out, and the grace and patience that requires? Expanding means we're all thinking about different ideas and different thoughts, and we have to be open to how we're going to be different than each other. So, on a day when we read some ancient wisdom that tells us that it's better to have a flexible heart than an inflexible ritual, we're going to celebrate a ritual. Of course, the hope is that it is with open and flexible hearts that we invite ourselves into this time of a table ritual. This is something we do as a community that has evolved over time, opened itself to new meanings. Historically, communion or Eucharist has been a place that the Christian church has used to identify whether you're kosher or not, so to speak. Are you mature enough? Don't give it to children. Heavens, no. Are you legit in the way you think and believe? Then you're welcome here. That is the tradition. That's how the Christian church has historically used this ritual to exclude as a doorway to identify you as in or out. And while doing so, emphasizing beliefs that's been literalized in such a way as to take an ordinary act like sharing a meal with each other because we, like each other, and we find that that's meaningful to share a meal, even if it's a small, tiny taste, symbolic one. And the historical church turned that into an act of belief in a magical act at worst, or a memory of a sacrifice at best. But as we move on from metaphors of yesterday that involve body and blood, or acts of atonement and other huge and unwieldy church doctrines, we can, and listen well, we can with confidence, if we wish, lay those aside. We have to hear that. We have to hear that we are allowed to lay those old ideas, those old beliefs about all of this stuff aside. To know that the act of sharing in this ritual is bigger than those dogmas or beliefs, as to quote Jesus in that reading, this is bigger than religion. We reframe them for meaning that might be more helpful to us. So today, we'll be invited to this table, in this room or in the multiple rooms of those of you gathering at home. We come to sit at any we come to this table just like any table, as a place to share food, share community, share commitment, and connect spiritually with ourselves, with community, with the world. We have the opportunity to celebrate community today in a reframed ritual around this table. We build a community where friends journey together. We established that, right? We're just all journeying together on this life of change and transitions, where we have a chance to learn together, explore the spiritual life with each other, and help others do the same. We're serious about building community where we can satisfy each other's hunger and thirst. Not just the ones we know, but also the ones we've never met. We come to this table with the symbolism knowing that we are ever hungry and thirsty, we're ever searching, and we're ever satisfying. So no matter what brings you to this table, if it's positive memories of a meaningful ritual called Eucharist or Holy Communion, then you're welcome. If this ritual itself isn't helpful for you, even in kind of new understandings, then leave it aside. Use this time in a different way. Why should we expect that a ritual of any community would be right for everyone? If this isn't right for you, by all means, stay in your seat. Use this time. Listen to some music. If it means something to break bread together, connect with community, reflect on the values that are important for us to commit to, you're welcome. May it be what we need. May it be what we most want in our place in the world. And may, foremost, it be something that helps us to expand and open our flexible hearts. As we just share in this ritual, I want to ask you to reply to my phrases with the phrase that you will see in front of you. I will say, "We're all invited." Would you please respond with, "We all can come"? Right, exactly. This is a table where we all belong, where despite every difference, there is room for everyone. We're all invited. We all can come. This is the table where we celebrate the spirit of compassion and inclusivity, of hospitality and generosity, and recognize our communion with all. We're all invited. We all belong. This is the table where we find bread for each of our journeys, bread that symbolizes our wholeness and brokenness, all our human strength and frailty, but also where we find a taste of the fruit of the land, reminding us we're precious and significant, where we find sweetness for ourselves and each other, where we celebrate life as adventure to be lived and a feast of existence. We're all invited. We all belong. This is a table where, if we need to, we can leave behind the past, the reenactments of ages gone beliefs, where we can find our own sense of belonging and meaning, and where a simple act of eating together can be for us a commitment to live the values we wish to live, and where that commitment can be to ourselves, for ourselves, and the good of all. We're all invited. We all belong. And this is a table where we can all find welcome, where you don't need to be a member of this church or any church. You need not be this way or that. We are welcome at this table exactly as we are, invited, welcomed, affirmed, accepted. All of us welcome to this table of sharing. We're all invited. We all belong. We will have a station in front of each section of chairs, and also if you need a gluten-free station, it'll be over here close to the musicians. So we are all invited and we all belong. You're welcome. We change the light, knowing that the connection of community continues, just as we still have grapes to munch. Well, there's more. And so as we change the light, we recognize that the work continues, that the change and the transformation always continues. And so we go now with words that will strengthen our intentions. Thank you, Mark.
Let's all join together now as we strengthen our intentions. There they are. Each day, we open ourselves to the sacredness of all, to the oneness that connects all life, to our deep bond with one another, with the earth and the cosmos. In centering ourselves in these truths, we seek to dismantle the walls that isolate and divide, to shrink our arrogance and strengthen our compassion, to open our eyes, unclench our fists, unstop our ears, and let love have its way in us. And so we seek to have the strength to grow, to heal from past hurts, to walk with each other in finding evolving ways to be, new avenues of compassion, and a hopeful future.